How's it going, guys? Wanted to go over a new deck that I've been testing on Sim and on stream for the past couple of weeks. It is my OP06 Queen list. I think Queen is a leader that can still sneak a lot of wins away from the meta decks that you may see at your locals and at competitive tournaments. He has insane survivability, a really, really good top end, and some new additions in OP06 that I think make him still very relevant to the meta. He still struggles against some leaders. I think the matchup against Yellow is pretty tricky, but overall, he's a really, really fun deck to play, and it feels really good to kind of get some of the combos out there and just play a bunch of 9-drops in a row and go for game. You'll kind of see a few new faces here. So the pudding card is just generically one of the best blue cards to be added to the game. Really punishes people who hold, a massive amount of resources in their hand. So good against Danelle, potentially good against Katakuri, good against Sakazuki, Reiju. So you can really do a lot of damage with this card. In fact, I might even consider raising this card to 3. It's just very, very good to play to kind of disrupt your opponent and force them to discard resources from their hand. It's so good. The real kind of like combo all-star of the deck is Sanji. You basically want to be using your dual flamingos and your X-Drakes to set up your next 4 or 5 turns, and then ideally get a Sanji play into a Yamato or a Mihawk, worst case scenario into an X-Drake. But ideally, you're doing this into a Mihawk or a Yamato and just removing something, and then establishing 2 9k bodies, and then healing either once or twice on that turn, which is a very, very good turn. Outside of that, it's pretty standard. Hiyori helps set up your life a little bit. So if you are on the defensive, or if you just need to kind of discard a card from your hand, you can reorder your life with Hiyori. Red Rockets for removal. The 7 cost Gravity Blade Raging Tiger is actually very good in this deck to kind of slow down your opponent and get you to a place where you can comfortably play your 9 cost characters and start to heal and basically go for game. And that's pretty much it. I think those are the additions. You may notice that there are no Katakuris in this list. That is intentional. I don't think that Katakuri is as required in this list as it was in OP04. You have, with the addition of Sanji, you have other good cards you can play in that slot. Katakuri kind of relies on a blocker being on board, like ideally a Brûlé or a Hancock or a Sanji being on board to really be super valuable. And in the current meta with Moria and Sakazuki kind of running rampant, it's tough to get things to stick on board. So he's just not as good, in my opinion. Plus, this makes the deck a little bit more budget friendly for the folks who don't want to spend $80 to play Katakuri. I think there's a reason Katakuri is not even played in Katakuri anymore. He's really only played in Nanel, who is a bit more heal focused, but he has Shirahoshis and things like that he would more like put kind of on his life more commonly. We don't run any Shirahoshis or anything like that. We do have the Brûlés and the Hyoris, but I don't know. I like this. I think it's kind of more removal focused because between the Yamatos and the Mihawks, and the Sanji kind of gets more value out of playing those cards. You can absolutely swap in Katakuris if you want to, but if you're looking for a budget friendly version, I think this does the trick. And yeah, let's dive into some games and see how we do. Okay, we have a match against Yamato. This is probably one of the hardest matches that Queen could have in OP06. Largely because it just ends so quickly, and Queen really wants things to go to the late game. But we have a lot of blockers, so hopefully that kind of takes the pressure off. You can't drag this out as easily as you can other matches. But this is a good opening hand. We have a 2k, and we have a bunch of blockers we can play, so should be feasible to survive for a couple of turns. And then we can play our blocker, and this is good. So let's see, 6, 8, 10 done. So we want this right here. Yep, okay, let's do it. What we really want to be careful of is the banish. So you don't want to be hit with the Onami banish unless you're sure you're going to heal in an upcoming turn. You also want to be really careful about triggers. You don't want to attack into life and then lose because they pulled a Kiku or some other kind of attacker off life. So it's really important to kind of bide your time, really wait until you have the ability to heal every turn, and then kind of go for the triggers. Let's block here. Okay, so this is a good time to do this. So now we are a little susceptible to a double attack banish, but I think it's okay because we're going to be playing our Sanji Yamato next turn. Yep. So I'm actually going to... so this will put us 2 life. Yeah, I might counter out here. I think that means we can heal. We'll have 2 cards in hand, 2 life. Yeah. So we're going to take that. And I think that means we should be able to heal with our leader ability. Yes. Okay. So now we're in a good spot. We have a blocker for next turn. We have our 2 major bodies, and so we're able to take the game back from this Yamato. We just are we have very low cards in hand, so it is still a bit dangerous. But overall, I think this is kind of where Queen starts to turn the game around back in his favor. The Momo. So yeah, this Yamato's got a lot of life. I think we're gonna hold on to the Red Rock. This kind of seems like the deck that might run the 9-drop Zoro. Okay, amazing. It's a really good pull for us. So do this. We know that they have... We know that they put something in their life, so we're actually... It's a little risky to attack here. If that's an Onami, we could be in trouble. Okay. Let's hold here. We only have 1 blocker up, so we don't really want to lose to a Hody Jones attack here. Yep. That's, I think, our main concern. So hopefully we have something in life here to help us out. Yep. And that's exactly what you're looking for. I mean, the strength of Queen is that he runs so many of these kinds of cards. So there's really so many, like a million opportunities to heal. Or rather, a million opportunities to kind of block or use a beige or something like that, because you have 4 of the Brulés, 4 of the Hancocks, 4 Sanjis, 4 beiges. So and you even have like the 0 cost event, which can heal you when you're at 1 life. So there's a lot of opportunities to survive an attack you would have otherwise died. And we're safe to do this because we know this is not a trigger. And then we can just block. I guess next turn we'll take that. Okay. If they have another Hody Jones, we could be in a bit of a trouble here. Yep, they do. But thankfully, they don't have another Amaru. So we're good. GG, and that was a brick. So we only got lucky the first time. But that's typically how the match goes. As you can see, this is kind of why it's dangerous. It goes very, very quickly. They have a lot of attack potential. So you can lose unexpectedly if you're not prepared and if your life just isn't what you need it to be. So thinking through like how many blocks you have, how much counter you have is really, really important. And then also knowing when you'll be able to heal and when you won't is really important to this matchup. But yeah, that's the match. Let's see if we can find another one. All right, we have our match against Moria here, another of the most popular leaders you might see in OP06. We are opening second, so I did mulligan. I didn't see any kind of big drops in my last hand, so this hand is a little better. Really, the game plan is the same as it always has been. Don't want to give him too many resources. Try to kind of keep pressure down until we see our Mihawks and make sure that we're setting up life in a way that we can just overwhelm them with 9 drops at the end of the game and keep healing. Thankfully, we have a lot of counters in hand, and it looks like they don't have any targets in their opening hand, or rather they don't want to pull out the Absalom just quite yet. So we'll take this one. and their blocker to start. It's really, really good for us. And perfect, it's kind of the exact hand we want to see. So the first thing we're going to do, so this is 4, so this will be 6, 8, 10. So we want to make sure that's there. And yeah, if they happen to draw too many cards, we can play putting. But based on how this is going, I think the putting will be mostly just a counter card, no cards to draw. A lot of targets for them in their graveyard. And so by not attacking, we're also ensuring that they don't pull something they need out of life early, because they have to discard a card every time they use their ability. So we can kind of really keep them at a very low hand and then just go for game very quickly once we have our 9 drops out. So he takes the Prona, means we have to trash a card. Trash one of these. Take this life. And then start blocking in the next turn. Well, you're seeing all of our 0-drop events. Let's do it this way. Okay, 6 Dawn, so we just need to kind of 2 more turns here. The 0-cost events are actually very helpful here because we can get more cards out of hand to really ensure that we get a heal off when we play the Sanji. Ideally, he'll soon start to kind of swing with these so we can start to thin out his board a bit as well. Attacks on board is really everything against Queen, so we want to make sure that we can minimize the number of attacks we're taking every single turn and basically just out-heal any damage he could potentially do. The one thing we haven't seen yet is a Yamato, so that I think would be the biggest addition to our board right now. Trash the Borsellino, got the Hogback. Hogback's going to pull his Moria, I think. Yep, there's the Moria. The 7-drop event would be really nice here as well. We can kind of bottom deck 2 of his cards. The Moria will be able to pull a Borsellino and maybe something else. But we will use our Sanji right after that Moria, so. Okay. We shouldn't see too many attacks this turn. I think mainly they will play the Moria, and we'll be playing play off of life, so we'll be at, I'm guessing, 3 cards in hand, 1 life, so we should be able to heal. I think one of the attacks will probably go into our Dofi blocker that we've now turned sideways. Okay. So I think overall we're in a good spot here. Oh, interesting. Rather than play the Moria, he went the Absalom route. A bit unexpected. I figured he would Moria, pull back a Borsellino and a brand new, maybe just draw a card, start setting up blockers. I think either way we're in a good spot. I'm not too concerned about what's happening here. Maybe he could sense that maybe a Yamato is coming out, and so he might Sabo here. Kuzan, okay. It's a really good card. But we have an answer. And we are able to heal this turn. Okay, this is kind of where we start to make our comeback. Queen is a very, very fun deck, but he plays on a really razor thin line. You have to play kind of low hand size and low life to really maximize the value that he has. And you want your opponent to be at a high life so that you're not giving them resources every turn when you attack into them. So it becomes very, very difficult to kind of survive long enough to really steamroll your opponent. And then a deck like Moria, which is constantly pulling things from their trash, is a really good matchup against Queen. If they have the ability to kind of go wide enough to deal with him. I think he could have maybe attacked more with, like, I think one thing he probably could have done differently is just pull something onto the board in his first turn so that he just had more attacks and put more pressure on me. I was kind of able to comfortably keep him at bay with blockers and counter for now, but if he was swinging more aggressively every turn, I would not be in such a safe position at the moment. You know, he's thinking through his options. I'm guessing there is like a Moria turn. There's potential for a Moria turn, but with another Mihawk in my hand, I'm not too concerned. Yeah. And then I think the obvious pull here is brand new. Try to get a card back in your hand. Put more targets in your trash, even though you have plenty of targets in your trash. I think with our Mihawk, we'll bottom deck the Borsellino, potentially. You got another Kuzan. The Kuzan's going to be big. Maybe we'll even save the Mihawk for that. We're getting a lot of blockers off life, so this is going pretty well for us. Oh boy, a lot of zero cost events here. I think we do that. We know that he has one Moria in trash, one on the board, so there's probably two around somewhere. And I think we can start putting pressure into his life at this stage in the game. Yeah, this is kind of where the putting, I think, would be more useful. He now kind of has 8 cards. I think he's looking for that second Moria. Oh, Perona. Interesting. I guess he has a plan for how he's going to remove some of these guys in the subsequent turn. Maybe play a Kuzan here. Yeah. Yeah, putting would be a really good draw at this point. Okay, we have the Hiyori. I think our first step is to take out that Moria. That's one of our bigger threats. Gain a life there. More 9k attack. He's got a lot of cards in hand, so he should be able to counter out of some of these. But seems like he's just taking them. So unless he can kind of clear 2 of these guys next turn, I think we're pretty safe. I mean, the Kuzan will bring it down to 5, Perona might bring it down to 2, and so he can Absalom it after that, but that's only one of the bodies, he will need to also take care of the other two in some shape or form. We do have 3k counter or just 1 2k, and we still have a blocker, so we're doing good. Yeah, I think my one misplay is potentially countering out with that putting a little too early. Could have held on to her for a little longer. We only run 2 in this deck, but I can definitely see why 3 or 4 might be good. It's just such a good card. Like, imagine playing a pudding on a 12 card hand. That's like another thing that I think this player is doing, potentially misplaying a bit. Against any blue deck in OP06, you really do have to be wary of that pudding. Reiju runs it. I think Croc typically runs it. Sakazuki is starting to run copies of it, so no reason to assume Queen wouldn't run it. And you're playing with fire here for sure. So I think with this, they can bring Sanji to 4. No, Sanji to 5. Verona brings Sanji to 2. Absalom takes care of Sanji. Some great eruptions and Ice Ages could maybe put you in range of a Lucci. Yep, so that's 2. And then Kuzan, I think, is gonna bring something else to 5. Okay, so they went, I think, a route that I could not have predicted. That was 2 Surus, Ice Age, Great Eruption, Lucci, and didn't even use the Kuzan. So maybe a little inefficient because you got rid of 2 2Ks that could have otherwise helped you survive the next turn. So now I have a 6k attacker, a 9k attacker, and leader. I think given all of the resources, probably not the most efficient route. You also had an Absalom in life, so you could have used Kuzan to save 2 Dawn, maybe get the Absalom out and kill something that way. Start off with an easy 9k. Yep, and then we just went, they don't have enough counter to get through, so they have 2k, 3k, 4k. So they would have used 3 cards here, and then I could have just done non-K and an X-Drake, and then that leaves me with 7 down for Queen. Maybe I would have put down a blocker and healed 1, so like Hiyori blocker, and then healed just to be super, super safe. But overall, I think this game was very handily in our camp. And yeah, that's Queen. I think can really hold their own against a lot of the OP06 meta. I think it's a fun deck. Takes all of the annoying parts of yellow and blue and puts them into one deck that just does not die if you play it right. The scariest part about Queen is really that turn right before you get your big drops out. You really have to play on a very razor thin wire, low hand size, low life, just so that you can maximize your heals. But that comeback is a really, really fun way to play. And overall, I think this is a really cool deck. So yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Come check out some more deck testing on Twitch, on YouTube when we're streaming Monday, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and sometimes on the weekends. And as always, if you like the video, drop a like, drop a follow, drop a subscription. All of that really, really helps. Thanks, guys.